The whole world is reacting to the Russia-Ukraine war, including the sporting world. How did Formula One drivers react to the conflict? What has the FIA decided about Russian athletes competing in F1? And who is his father, and how is he involved with Putin? All of that and more is coming up, so don't go anywhere. First up, the war and its effects. You've probably heard a lot of news about the Russia-Ukraine war by now, but how did Formula One get tangled up in all the politics? On the 24th of February 2022, Russia shocked the world by invading Ukraine. Governments responded with sanctions on Russia and also provided military assistance to Ukraine. Many people around the world, from the US to Europe, showed their support through public protests and social media posts. This led to many national teams and professional athletes publicly stating that they would refuse to play Russia in any competition. Ukraine backed this up by asking global sporting authorities to ban Russian and Belarusian competitors in protest, and many of them have. Footballing associations FIFA and UEFA have suspended Russian teams from their competitions, including the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, and the International Olympic Committee has banned Russia from the 2024 Olympic Games. Then the FIA confirmed last Friday that the 2022 Russian Grand Prix would not go ahead in September because of this conflict. Following a meeting on Thursday, the FIA decided that it would be impossible to hold the Russian Grand Prix in the current circumstances. The F1 president and CEO Stefano Domenicali has told investors that it is not difficult to find a replacement location for the Russian Grand Prix, and that there is interest from many different parties. But according to F1 journalist Joe Saward, this announcement does not mean that the Grand Prix is definitely cancelled. Saward admits that the chance of it going ahead as planned is very low, but points out that there are likely some contractual obligations that need to be worked out first. How have the drivers reacted? F1 drivers are pretty free to post their own opinions on social media, and many of them have reacted in horror to the war unfolding in Ukraine. Some drivers have been stronger than others in speaking out against Russia's actions, while others have chosen to just support the FIA's decision. The first F1 driver to comment on the conflict was four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. He said last week that he would not attend the 2022 Russian Grand Prix if it were to take place. He said that because of the innocent people suffering in Ukraine, it would not be right to have a race in the country. He also condemned Putin's actions as causing deaths for, quote, stupid reasons for a, quote, very strange and mad leadership. Reigning world champion Max Verstappen was next to come out with a strong statement, telling the press in Barcelona that when a country is at war, it's not correct to race there. That's for sure. Most F1 drivers were not as strong as Vettel and Verstappen in their words for Russia and Putin. Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, and Pierre Gasly, including Valtteri Bottas, Lance Stroll, George Russell, and Mick Schumacher, all expressed their sadness about the situation for the people of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, and Nicholas Latifi all had a similar reaction. They applauded the FIA for making the decision to cancel the Russian Grand Prix under difficult circumstances. Coming up, how Nikita Mazepin's father is involved with Vladimir Putin and what this means for Nikita's future. Who has been attacking Mazepin online? And could this be the beginning of the end for the struggling Haas team? Stay tuned to find out. Now, all eyes are on Nikita Mazepin, who is the only Russian F1 driver on the grid. What does this mean for his future, and what have the FIA decided about Russian drivers? On Monday, the Ukrainian Motorsport Authority asked the FIA to follow the International Olympic Committee and ban all Russian competitors. Formula One then held an emergency meeting to discuss whether or not Russian driver Nikita Mazepin would be banned from the competition. They decided that drivers would technically be banned from competing under the Russian or Belarusian flag, but that they could compete under an FIA flag if they wanted to participate. Mazepin drives for Haas, which is sponsored by Uralkali, a Russian company that is largely controlled by his father Dmitry Mazepin. The Haas F1 team has already announced that it was removing Uralkali branding from its cars for the 2022 season. This leaves the team with a big sponsorship hole to fill with less than a month to go before the first race in Bahrain. Even before the war, Mazepin didn't have a smooth ride in Formula One. He has faced constant criticism for being a so-called pay driver and has been called out for some troubling social media posts showing him harassing women. F1 fans online have dubbed the Russian driver Mazepin for his habit of running himself off the racetrack. But the problems for Nikita Mazepin are much deeper than his Russian nationality. His father is a Russian billionaire oligarch with close ties to Vladimir Putin. Who is Dmitry Mazepin? So, who is Nikita Mazepin's father? How did he make his money? And how close is he to Putin's inner circle? Dmitry Mazepin is a Russian billionaire. He spent the majority of his career in the oil and gas sector, where he worked his way up to become the president of petrochemical company Cyber before creating his own company. He then founded Uralchem, which is now one of the biggest manufacturers of chemical and fertilizer products in Russia. Uralchem owns Haas's title sponsor, Uralkali. Dmitry Mazepin was a representative of Putin's United Russia Party and is closely linked to the Russian leader. He was part of a group of business leaders called to meet Putin after Russia's invasion of Ukraine last week. He's clearly an influential and well-connected figure in Russia. These ties might force F1 and Haas to part ways with both Mazepins. Since the FIA have already canceled the Russian Grand Prix for Russia's actions, it's not hard to imagine that Dmitry's relations with Putin could prove to be a problem for his involvement with the sport. Dmitry has been interested in Formula One for a while, and he has tried to buy the Force India F1 team when they were forced into administration in 2018. He lost his bid to Canadian billionaire Lawrence Stroll, who then gave his son a driving seat at the team after the takeover. Dmitry then tried to sue the administrators who handled the sale of Force India, claiming that they did not carry out a fair selling process. Next, we have targeting Mazepin. Since last week, his son Nikita has been attacked on social media for not taking a stand. He first said that he would like to have sports without politics and avoid talking about it. And really, who can blame him? His father has close connections to Putin, and his F1 team is sponsored by his father's company. So there really isn't much that Nikita can say that would please all parties. He did make a statement on Twitter last week addressed to his followers that said that he was, quote, not in control over a lot of what is being said and done, and that he was instead trying to concentrate on his job as part of the Haas team. But this has angered many people. The former Top Gear host Jeremy Clarkson took aim at Mazepin, telling him to go and race in Russia on your own. You'd still lose. Haas boss Günther Steiner defended his younger driver, telling the Russian to keep his head down and focus on their work together. So this leads us to the question, could Haas fall apart? Steiner has said that there is no issue for the team to receive funding from different sources than Uralkali, and others have also suggested that pulling the plug on the Uralkali deal would only mean a short-term impact on the team, but they may be putting on a brave face. When Nikita Mazepin was given a driving seat in the team alongside a partner sponsorship with his father's company Uralkali, many saw this as an act of desperation for funding. The decision to drop Uralkali as a title sponsor looks like the Haas team doesn't need the Russian money, but it could be just a way to get ahead of potential problems down the line. Even if they wanted to keep the Uralkali, it would be more difficult to receive funding from the company with all of the sanctions the EU, the US, and the UK are putting on Russia. The decision of the FIA's meeting to not ban Russian drivers from its competitions, but if they want a clean break from Uralkali, they might want to get rid of Nikita Mazepin too. The Russia-Ukraine war could have knock-on effects for F1 and Haas in particular. Do you think Nikita Mazepin and his father should be banned from F1? What do you think of the actions many sports have taken to ban Russian athletes? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you next time.